Cybersecurity is no cookie cutter gig. One wrong move, and hackers send an RSVP to your data party. Let's talk about security controls. This is Intellectual Point. We help you get a high earning job in IT. Security controls come in flavors. Preventive, like firewalls and multi factor authentication, slam the door on attacks. Detective, think SIEM and IDS, play cyber Sherlock, spotting breaches mid heist. Corrective, like incident plans and backups, mop up the mess when hackers crash through. For example, a company rocks MFA to log out fakers, logs every sneaky login attempt, and keeps an incident response plan ready. Bam! Hackers hit a triple wall and leave empty handed. It's a security sandwich attackers can't bite. I've said enough. Here's a deep dive with Steven.
We're going to talk about the relationship between enterprise and security controls, how you want to incorporate those into your organization. I want you to imagine that you're working for a company when we talk about security controls. Chances are you're probably already working for a company. And there's some daily exercises you can do to help you out in this area. We're going to talk about those as well. But the context of security controls is they are essential tools in cybersecurity that help protect an organization's assets, data, and networks from a variety of cyber threats. This is what you can use to help protect your organization. They typically work in layers with preventative, detective, and corrective controls complementing each other to achieve something we call defense in depth. Understanding these security controls and how they interact with each other will help you effectively identify and manage risks to your entire organization's information systems. Your job will be to implement these security controls. So again, some standard practices you can do while just walking around your day-to-day job now is look around your organization. Chances are your organization already has security controls in place. And when we learn the categories and types that they fall into, I want you to practice this just walking around the building. Things like locks or cameras. There's a lot of different security controls that you can use. We're going to talk about some of those here. So security controls fall into two different sections. First is categories. And there are 4 areas in the categories. You've got technical, managerial, operational, and physical security controls. These are summarized as categories. And they also fall into types. Now, each security control can be assigned a type, but there are 6 types. Now, there's a clever way to remember this. If you want, I do P, C, D, 1, 2, 3. That's the way that I do it. There's 1 P, 2 Cs, and 3 Ds. Now, you don't have to use that. That's just a way that can help you memorize that. You have preventative, deterrent, detective, corrective, compensating, and directive. These are different outcomes that your security controls can achieve. Great way to determine what your security control is doing, why you're putting it into place. It could be preventative or deterrent and so on. And we'll get into that in just a minute. Over here, we have a picture of a bollard or 2 bollards. Talk about what bollards are. And over here at the top, we have a picture of a security camera. These are examples of security controls. Now, categories are broad. They're a broad group that classifies security controls based on their function or purpose. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, talk about exactly what these are. You're going to need to be able to identify security controls, the categories they fall into, and what type they are. So back up to the top here. 1.1, security controls, again, are measures, practices, or safeguards put in place to protect an organization's information systems, networks, and data from cyber threats and vulnerabilities. They help prevent, detect, and respond to various security incidents in your organization. So first, the categories. Technical controls. Controls implemented through technology or software. These are things like firewalls, using encryption, intrusion detection systems, and intrusion prevention systems, which are software you can install in your organization, antivirus or AV, anti-malware programs, and secure coding practices. There are more, but most of the time, these are software-based. That's kind of the key word there that you want to use, software-based. We also have physical controls. Physical controls, this is a physical asset. This is incredibly important. Someone has to come into your building and install these. This could be something like a lock. You can reach up and touch these, okay? A camera would count as a physical asset, okay? Someone has to install that in your building. So when you're walking around your building, look for cameras, look for locks, put them under the physical security control category. Lighting is also included in physical controls. It's a type of physical control that you can use. Next, we have operational controls. Now, a lot of my students have a hard time with operational controls, but the key here for operational controls is day-to-day basis. These are any practice or procedure that you're going to implement on a day-to-day basis. And it supports the execution of security policy. This can be things like access controls, access control management systems, security monitoring, system backups, things that you do on a day-to-day basis are considered operational controls. These often help enforce security policies around your organization. And last is managerial controls. Managerial controls. Now, the outlining key or the keywords for this is policies, procedures, and strategies. This is what's going to help you identify a managerial control. These are implemented by some sort of supervisor, leadership, or management team at your organization. These are things like security awareness training, incident response plans, risk assessments, business continuity plans, BCPs, security policies, security frameworks that your company or organization is using, your enterprise is using, compliance framework. Now, these are the 4 categories. So technical, physical, operational, managerial, and you can see I've put them into the TPOM order. So what I like to do is TPOM is how I remember. This is technical, physical, operational, managerial. This is how you can remember the 4 categories. You're going to want to know all 4 of these, and you want to be able to look around your current organization and put the security controls you have into these different categories. Now we're going to move on to the control types. Control types consist of that PCD 1, 2, 3 that we talked about. PCD 1, 2, 3. There's 1 P, preventative, 2 C's, corrective and compensating, and 3 D's, deterrent, detective, and directive. You need to know all 6 of these. You must know these. You must be able to categorize controls into these different control types. Now, types are a little bit different than categories. Classifying security controls into types, like the ones that we just talked about, will help your organization structure their security efforts in a way that addresses multiple facets of protection. The goal is defense in depth, layering your defense, understanding what the things that you implement, the security controls you implement, how they affect your organization. This right here, these types, they're going to tell you how they affect your organization. You can build a robust layered defense that can help you effectively combat evolving cybersecurity threats. That's the goal. Now, types are here. Preventative attacks is any control that can stop an attack. Stop is a key word. It is an identifier that must exist in order for it to be a preventative control. If the security control that you implement does not stop the attack, it is not a preventive control. So keep that in mind. It must stop the attack in order for it to be preventive. Next is detective. This is anything that you incorporate or implement in your organization that helps you detect an attack. For example, a light. A light is a great example. Most people would think, oh, I just need to be able to see for safety, but it actually helps you detect as well. Think about a dark parking lot at night. You can input or incorporate a light as a detective security control. You also have corrective, and corrective helps you recover. That's the keyword for corrective. Corrective typically happens after an attack has already occurred, and it helps your enterprise or organization recover from an attack. This can be things like a backup, for example. A backup, and I've had students who say they get confused on backups. They'll say, hey, this is a preventative control. It's a preventive control because it happens before the attack. The backup itself, that's correct. It does happen before the attack occurs. If you're working at a company that has a policy in place, a managerial policy that they do backups nightly, that's a great control to have in place. but we don't use a backup until after an event has occurred. And when we use it is what you want to pay attention to. So corrective typically happens after something has occurred. Maybe we had a hardware failure, or maybe there was a cybersecurity attack on our organization. We need to recover. We will use a corrective control. We implement these so that we can recover. Next is deterrent. This is any control that discourages an attacker. And this is something that they see and they're saying, oh, I probably shouldn't do this because there's a video camera right there. Or I can see a lock on that fence. I'm not going to be able to get in there. So why even try? Things like that. That's what a deterrent control is. So it's anything that can discourage an attacker. Next is compensating. Now, this is something that alternatively replaces a resource of control, and it's temporary. It's very temporary. For example, your building is ran by power. And if the power goes out, all of your equipment will go down. So if you implement a generator to replace the power in the event that it goes down, that would be an example of a compensating control. Last is a directive control. This is any control that you implement that provides guidance or rules to dictate an outcome, something like a policy. Or think about it, if you're sitting at your job, your workstation, wherever you're at, and there's an emergency, and you pick up an SOP or a response plan, this is an example of a directive control. But that's not it. Actually, other controls can be directive too. If you think about a fence or a guardrail, those are put into place to help guide people to a certain location. If you set up fences at a concert to guide them to lines in different areas, that would be an example of a directive control. Now, the thing about the control types is it can be kind of difficult sometimes to figure out which one applies to what security control. The security categories are relatively easy, but the control types might take you a little bit of effort to kind of figure out how you're using your security controls. You can assign multiple attributes to one security control. For example, a lock. A lock that you put on a fence is preventive because it can stop an attack, and it's also a deterrent because if a bad guy looks at a locked fence, he's less likely to try to break in. Same thing with a video camera. You think about a video camera, not great artistry here, but if you think about a video camera helps you detect attacks. But if a bad guy sees it, it also deters them. A bad guy can see a camera and say, I might not want to do this because I'll be caught on camera. I'll be caught, right? So those are some examples of where there are security controls that have multiple attribute types that apply to them. And remember, the way you can remember these is PCD, 1, 2, 3.
Want to mix and match controls like a chef? Let's serve those hackers a big, fat access denied. Come to Intellectual Point. We have live instructor-led training and on-demand training for cyber, security, and AI courses. We will help you launch your career in IT. Thanks for watching, and I hope you like and subscribe to Intellectual Point.